Moriden, Athluan.
Every tale has its dark side, my friends. Even so noble a hero as Moriden did not always help the people.
Do not take this as truth, but there are rumors that he worked for a time for the Thieves Guild of Skyrim.
So sorry to miss the beginning of the evening tale, my friend. What did I miss?
Though none alive would dare to besmirch Moriden's name, the rumors persist. Some claim that he finally fell to greed and avarice. Others, that he was forced into serving their desires.
Oh. Well, of course it would be this part. Should have realized. Not like there's a great deal of my story left to tell.
Despite what seems evidence that cannot be explained away, yet others claim that Moriden became one of the greatest of thieves, not for personal gain, but to once again save the people of Skyrim from the darkest of horrors.
Oh, that's rich. The darkest of horrors. Seriously. The only thing I saved anyone from during that time of my life was the burden of a full purse. The rumors, I'm afraid, are true, my friend.
So, though they are only the darkest of slander, dear listeners, gather round once more and hear the tale of the greatest of thieves.
For it to be slander, it would have to be intentionally wrong. Much of this tale is right, but they won't give you the details. You know how much I enjoy a good tale in a good tavern. So let me save you the pain of listening to the drivel. Far enough from the rest of the people here that I can tell you how it really happened. Because the truth of it... The truth is not what the bards would have you believe. "24 Rain's Hand, 4th Era, 202. We slept on the island that night. When dawn arrived, I swam for the shores with Romodo. The Nord wanted vengeance of his own for being left to die, and I can't blame him. Sigrun has been twisting him around constantly during this whole affair. Once we get to Tel Mithrin, I'll get the boatmen there to go back for the others. Even after I told him the entire story, Neloth still acted as though nothing had gone horrifically wrong. Though he did give me a little bit of coin for the inconvenience of it all. The Mur is an idiot, for all he knows is magic. The part is important, as he was shocked to learn that Sigrun hadn't even been aboard. When I challenged him to locate her, he took it as a personal affront and whipped up the magic needed immediately. And she is in Skyrim. Of course. I can't go back yet, unfortunately. As much as I want to get her safely dead and in the ground. First, I have to deal with the Snow Elf Prince spear I came here to find in the first place. Sigrun will have to wait. But not for long, I hope. The barrow I needed was high up in the mountains. It took several hours to get there, the entire time with Ramodo griping and questioning why I wasn't going straight after Sigrun. I finally got fed up and told him that if he wanted to go, there was no need to wait for me. I'd be along later to loot his corpse, if he was that eager. He wasn't that eager after all. Fortunately for his patience and my own sanity, there wasn't much to the barrow, a single large room with the corpse of the elf laid out. The frost giant there wasn't much of a concern, and I had the spear I was seeking in short order, meaning it was time to return to Skyrim. Finally. Hopefully I don't need to return to this island. All of the ash is irritating. From Raven Rock, we sailed back to Windhelm and then boarded the Devaveza. It was a short hop to Winterhold where I tracked down Arneal and gave him his soul gem. He was thrilled, commenting that only one thing remained and that it should be along in a day or two. I left him to it. I have no need to be involved in anything more at the moment anyhow. With Ramodo still at my back, I could only go to find Sigrun at this point, as much as I would have preferred heading for the Temple of Trinimac. Fortunately, the pirate captain has gone somewhere I have been before, and have no problem clearing out again if I must. On the north shores of Hafenga, she has taken up residence in a local pirate favorite, Broken Ore Grotto. I know that territory as well as she does, I'd wager. I'd call it an even fight, but it won't even be close, I don't think. I need this finished, and Ramodo gone, so I can get back to more important business. 25 Rain's Hand, 4th Era, 202. Retreating to the Avessa, I noted two things as we traveled across the skies to Solitude. First, my fear of flying seems to have largely departed. Second, Ramodo is seeing things he has never seen before and is, himself, absolutely terrified of flying. I can relate, but have no sympathy. This is one of the least strange things I've been confronted with in the last 6 months. Once we docked at the museum, I led the way down to the docks, and then around the peninsula to Broken Ore Grotto. From what I can tell, nothing has really changed since my last visit here. Sigrun may be the first to come here since I slaughtered the pirates who were here previously. Of course, there was only one place she would go. The Tower of Ships at the far end is hard not to miss. And it is clearly meant to be a position of power. Power. She thinks she had that still. I had Ramodo wait outside while I went in to deal with Sigrun. He pushed back, of course, but I made something very clear to him. This would not be a torture session. We had no need for information, no reason to inflict enduring pains. Yes, Sigrun had caused a great deal of trouble for both of us, but for all of that, she was no more than another pirate, another brigand. I would not waste time on killing any other chief, nor would I waste time on this one. It would be quick and as painless as I could manage. She knew the fight was already over. She had lost. There was no need to gloat. Ramodo wasn't happy about it, but given the choice between waiting and being killed as well, he took the smart choice. Sigrun. I could almost wish it otherwise. I know your pain. I know the need for vengeance. Know the need to kill someone you believe to be the source of all your pain. Almost I could forgive that, and all that you have caused to be as a result. Almost. But you refused to see evidence. You refused to see truth. So long had you wallowed in the belief that all of your own pain was the fault of another, that you could not comprehend that sometimes the pain simply is. That there is nothing at fault for our losses. For that reason, you have fallen. For that reason, you have lost everything. I hope you felt nothing at the end, except relief that it is all over. Sigrun Freewinter, captain of the Sea Tiger and pirate, is dead. Out of respect, I laid her out as neatly as I could and left Broken Oar Grotto to be her tomb. When we stepped clear of the grotto, we were greeted by another ghost. This one, of Voden Freewinter. Though I was concerned that he might be somewhat offended by killing his wife, he made it plain he thought otherwise. Just another bandit now, he said. Once, she had been more, but the woman who had been his wife had long since been consumed by her need for vengeance. I can relate, I think. Though he wasn't happy to see her dead, he knew the need of it. He made his services available to me through a summoning spell, and then departed. There was one other thing he said to me that stuck in my mind, though. How we live is defined by the things we are ready to die for. For him, it had been his family. For Sigrun, it had been for nothing. If he's right, then how will my life be measured? How will time tell my story, if it is ever told at all? I sent Ramodo on his way. I will need to report back to Sero that this is all over, and see if there's a bounty on Sigrun at Raven Rock as well. That will wait. I can do a quick trip out there after the Temple of Trinimac is entered, and my own dose of vengeance unleashed on those falmer who dared to kill one of my own people. The temple was, as I left it, unopened, and the guild unthreatened. I made my way through the cave, returning to the dais where the rest were still waiting for me. They could have at least tried to build a bridge to make the trip shorter, but no such luck. Where we were lucky was in our guess about the spear. It was the key we needed. The doors opened, and we were met by a small horde of falmer. The fight was a short one. Numbers were on our side. It might have been quicker and certainly less bloody had the guild allowed me to explore alone, but they wouldn't hear of it. Travel to the far side of a province on your own to enter the tomb of a dead snow elf? Sure. Explore an ancient temple with a few falmer in it? No. We need to bring everyone. Our histories appear to at least be mostly correct. Trinimac and Malakath are related somehow. The statue to the Daedric Lord on the far end of the cavern made that apparent. Aryan might have said what the connection was at some point. If he did, my eyes were likely crossed by then, unable to keep up with the Mer's encyclopedic knowledge of all things arcane. It's daunting to try to keep up with, never mind match. I don't envy Kaya that daily task. We stepped closer and heard the same falmer who had spoken before. I didn't care for what I heard. References to finding a weapon in a temple of ice, something called Nebcressin. Moloch being referenced once again, the ancient name for Malakath. Him at least I know and understand somewhat. Strength will be the key to that side of things, and there is no question these falmer are strong. The entire room of them charging at us made me grateful for once that the guild had been with me. A good 30 of them we slew with their leader tossing ice magics at us as well. But we fought them back, and their leader retreated. The conversation got into deep thinking once again. The Nebcressin was the immediate concern, a weapon better known as the Blade of Treachery. Originally created by Sheogorath, it was gifted to Malakath as a prank. As Sheogorath's pranks often are, this one was deadly. The blade causes its wielder to become a berserker, attacking friend and foe alike without discrimination, and in Malakath's case, he killed his own son. Somehow, Sheogorath got the blade back, and now Malakath is sending these falmer to hunt for it. It's possible there's another motive here, as one blade wouldn't be enough to destroy everything on its own. But given to the right person, say, a Jarl, well, depending on which one, the entire province could be right back in the civil war we just left behind. The only bright spot is that from what we heard, the falmer don't know where it is either. Aryan, however, has an idea. Though it is based on my own descriptions, he thinks that something I saw in the Forgotten Vale might be the place we're looking for. I'm not certain that makes sense. The numbers of falmer I saw there should have long since found such a weapon if it were there. But, as we have no other ideas, that's what we're going with. 26 Rain's Hand, 4th Era, 202. We broke camp before the sun rose, and they all fell in behind me as we walked to Darkfall Cave. I haven't thought about this place in months, and the thought of going back there is less than comforting. The Paladin is likely still here, I imagine, engaged in what I now know to be a futile attempt to turn the falmer back into reasonable, thinking mer again. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all against the 6 of us, and the memory and hope of a glacial cave I had described to Aryan. There wasn't much talking as we moved. As someone who has saved the world a time or two, I recognized the feelings and emotions of the others. That was the weight they thought themselves to be carrying. I almost snorted in amusement. Yes, the destruction of the Nords and the resurfacing of the falmer as a legitimate people would be world-altering, but it would not be the end if we failed. An end, yes, but not the end. Up into the hills of the Reach, and then into the valley on the far side. Finally reaching the cave, I cautioned all of them to watch their steps, and then led the way inside. Crossing the Vale was so much easier this time. Though there were certainly more falmer to replace the many that I killed last time I was here, I also had 2 other advantages. First, the way shrines were still up and running, and second, I didn't have to worry about my vampiric thirst or weaknesses. Perhaps if I had just kept myself to populated areas, the last wouldn't have been such a problem, but I hadn't, and I left them unprepared. Always be prepared, so I learned. We cut across the landscape from the way shrine of Resolution and down into the valley that led to the northern end of the glacial cave. If I remember aright, this is where I saw some things that might have been an ancient temple. It's hard to say. We'll have to rely on Aryan and Kaya's eyes once we are inside. The site was as I remembered it. We could see the temple as soon as we stepped in. The falmer had repopulated these caves as well, but because of how the bridges and pathways were arranged, they were not hard to handle. Upwards, we climbed. They were focused on what was around us in detail, much as I was the first time I climbed. Me, I was more focused on not letting the falmer get close enough to hurt us again. At length we reached the top, and as close to the temple as we were going to get. Kaya, with Aryan assisting, made a guess as to the best place to dig. We dared not leave this spot, lest the falmer come calling, and so the guild got to work digging while I made sure we could do so uninterrupted. After midnight, we finally broke through. 27 Rain's Hand, 4th Era, 202. After allowing a few hours for sleep, we moved to enter the temple, or whatever this is. This door was locked in a similar way as the one we saw in the Reach, but the slot for it was different in shape. Aryan commented that it looked like it was a pole or a staff, and wondered aloud if one of those 3 staves I found for Calcelmo might possibly be the key. I sighed, already planning on a long trek back to Solitude to get the stupid things. But then Aryan added that those 3 staves were some of the artifacts he'd brought with him. Once handed over, one of them slotted into place easily, and we entered the temple. Inside was a massive, empty room. On either side, 2 doors stood locked by the same kind of key system. What are the odds that the 3 staves I found in a completely unrelated set of events would be the ones to unlock these doors? The way my life has been directed lately, I'm not betting against it. Of much interest was the top of the central rise, where things that looked like large musical chimes were placed. There was a harp embedded in a section of the rise as well, but all of it appeared to be locked by a missing component. Which means more exploration before we work out what it is for and why it is here. The guild is all a-twitter about it, but I just want to find that blade before the falmer and get it safely into storage at the museum. More locks, and more specific items required. The slots this time reminded Aryan strongly of those he uses to hold rings back at the museum. On one side there was a giant shrine to Finister, which made it likely we would need the Ring of Finister to operate it. That ring is in Dominion possession, though still here in Skyrim. There's only 2 places it could be, Aryan said, the Embassy and Northwatch Keep, the 2 places that the Thalmor are operating out of. Given I've cleared out the Embassy, I'm betting Northwatch. The other side featured a design representative of magic, making us think the Warlock's Ring would likely be the key here. That one I believe I have already in the safe house, but we'll need to check. If not, then I have a lot more work to do than I thought. As usual, as I'm out locating what's needed, the guild will remain here to look for more information. Without the others to slow me down, I was out of the Vale and back in Solitude before noon. A quick rummage through the displays found the Warlock's Ring, something I'd picked up while I was ransacking the home of the Silver Hand. That done, I made for Northwatch Keep. I kept to the rocks, high above, trying to avoid notice. I have attacked forts before. Pragstad comes to mind. I've rarely come with the intention of a single-handed assault, however. I had one chance at this, and if even one survivor got away, then the Thalmor would come hunting me in truth. That was a complication I didn't need. With my overhead view, though, I got a good feel for the outside and how many of these Dominion flunkies I would need to deal with. It was manageable, especially if they never figured out where I was shooting from. It would still need to be quick, though. I waited until I saw a full change of the guard, then gave it 10 minutes to get the old guards safely inside. Then I rained down lightning and arrows. With all the exterior guards down, I charged into the fort. I knew little of its intended purpose, but I also knew it was a Nord design, which means that certain things would be placed in certain places. That made it easy to lure the Thalmor towards me, and I killed several at choke points. None escaped. It turned out to be a prison, complete with an interrogator and torture chamber. The former is now dead. In a lockbox in his room was the ring I was looking for, and a key to the cells. which gave me an idea. How better to mask the fact that all of this was over a ring, which they would have a hard time believing and would potentially have them looking for some special significance to that, when I could just release all of the prisoners and make it look like a jailbreak, complete with a bit of looting. Both the rings I need, probably, are now in my possession. I rode back for Darkfall Cave and the Guild.